Good morning, YouTube. Warbles on a lot here with the end of Outsiders for the 5th of July and the first Moondog.
Hello, Patriots. Welcome to everybody's favourite game show.
Whose side are you on?
It's the fun game where we find out if you're an appropriately loyal citizen of Australia. Are you Aussie enough? Win and you get all the benefits of citizenship. Lose and you could be subject to an in-depth inquiry from Ray Martin. Nobody wants that. So it's time to find out...
Whose side are you on?
Tonight's contestant is Norman Crockenbrush Friand from Upper Camping, Frampington. Hi, Norman.
Hello.
Norman, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well,
That's great, Norman. Are you ready to play?
Whose side are you on?
I'm not sure, Dennis.
Fantastic. Here's our first multiple choice question. The most important benefit of being an Australian citizen is A, shouting abuse at Muslim women as you drive past in your Commodore. Who hasn't done that? I know I have. B, being thrown in jail if you report the sexual abuse of children. C, using your huge Australian media empire to prosecute a malicious ideological agenda for commercial gain. Or D, wait a second, you don't need to actually be an Australian citizen to use your huge media empire to prosecute a malicious ideological agenda for commercial gain.
Is it D?
Correct. Well done, Norman. Here's our next question. Soon, Parliament may or may not be voting on legalising same-sex marriage. Do you, Norman, A, take this Labrador to be your lawfully wedded spouse? B, it's not time. We have other more important things to deal with, like terrifying the crap out of everybody with national security. C, gay today, tomorrow the world. Or D, a joke about gay marriage and a private member's bill.
Oh, is it number B?
Correct again. Question 3, and I think we're getting a pretty good idea of whose side you're on, Norman. Norman, who do you trust to uphold the rule of law in Australia? Is it A, our legal system and the fat judiciary and all those fancy big city latte drinking lawyer types? B, Manto, the praying mantis. Is he a man? Is he a bug? C, no thanks, I'm trying to give them up. Or D, a former Queensland copper with a face like a Brussels sprout.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Time's up, Norman. I'll take the Brassica family for $500, please, Ian. Correct. Well done, Norman. We're only 200 points and a Chico roll away from finding out...
Whose side are you on?
Here's our last question, Norman. You're invited to go on Q&A.
Oh, I wouldn't go on Q&A.
Correct.
I don't even watch it. I do like Ray Martin, though.
Well done, Norman. The viewers have voted and you're on Australia's side. And that's all we've got time for. Let's finish as we always do with the Whose Side Are You On pledge. Australia, Australia, I'm on your side. I wave my genitalia with patriotic pride. Australia, Australia, when I hear the PM shout, national security, a bit of wee comes out. Oi!
Vintage.
And that's it for RN Sunday Extra today.
Yes, well, what can we say about that? What can we say about that? Yeah, the gay marriage thing, it's still banging on and banging on and banging on because Tony Abbott, the half-trained Jesuit priestling, who likes to start his press conferences with 10 Australian flags draped across the wall behind him just to show that he's much more Australian than anybody else. And he's the captain of Team Australia. And if you don't agree with what he's doing, then you're un-Australian and maybe you don't deserve your citizenship, because over here we're going to get rid of courts. We're going to get rid of lawyers. We're just going to have suspicious ministers who think that you might be un-Australian. So Tony Abbott's been having a shit fight about gay marriage. And what else has been happening? Well, yeah, in Greece, they got this bit of a problem. There's only 1 million people live in Greece. And about 3,000 years ago, all the dickheads from Babylon who got rich inventing irrigation and salination as they tried to continue their broadacre agriculture when they'd cut the trees down and drop the rainfall, they discovered that if irrigation exceeds precipitation, then salination is inevitable, and the Babylonians salted their own soil. So their civilization fell on its ass, and the rich people fucked off. Some of them turned up in Greece and used their running money, their jewellery, their gold, to pay the local yokels to cut down all the trees in Greece. And Greece had this lovely big civilization where they foisted the idea of a democracy on the world, which was always a joke because it kicked off in a slave-based economy. How can you have a democratic government in a slave-based economy? It always had to be a fucking joke. So anyway, since they got rid of their trees and then they let loose a plague of goats and overgrazed the rocky, bare, mountainous hilltops that they've got, and they caught all the fish in the ocean, the Greeks have been making a living by buying and selling other people's stuff and carrying it places. You know, like back in the days when the green grassy knoll shot John F. Kennedy in the head, his widow went and married a Greek called Aristotle Onassis, who was the richest man in the world. And on his personal private pleasure yacht, Aristotle Onassis, he showed off how wealthy he was as a Greek by telling the upholsterer to get the most expensive material in the world to cover the seats on his bar stools. And you know what Aristotle Onassis used to sit on when he was getting drunk on his pleasure yacht? His bar stools were covered with sperm whale foreskin leather because it was the most expensive covering material the upholsterer could think about. But everybody else who lived in Greece, they were living on the tourist trade. And since 2009, there haven't been quite such a rich, fat, fast-flowing stream of cashed-up yuppies and retired grey nomads who want to go overseas and spend money. So the tourist trade's been dying up. And the Greek government, for personal political quiet, has been borrowing money from the International Monetary Fund, which has a clause which says as long as you pay the interest, they can keep giving you money. And they got themselves into a situation where there's 1 million Greeks, million with an M, and they owe between them 150 billion with a B type dollars. So each individual Greek citizen owes the International Monetary Fund $150,000 or euros or whatever they're bloody measuring it in. And that's a bit of a worry because like some of them are old and they're not earning any money and they're actually racking up more debt and there's not so many young people. So at the moment, Greece has defaulted on a $20 billion interest payment. And they wanted to borrow the money to pay the interest. And they think they really need $50 billion to get them through the next 3 to 5 years, but they don't actually have any clear plan in their head as to how they're going to pay the interest on the money that they owe, and they want more money to feed their pensioners and they're unemployed because they haven't got any topsoil and they haven't got any trees and they can't actually live on the land that their ancestors have left them, because if your grandfather puts the topsoil at the bottom of the ocean, good fucking luck, mate. You know, the sins of the fathers or the sins of the parents are visited onto the children, even unto the 7th generation, and thou shalt learn to grow thy food on rocks and sand because of what your umpty-ump great-grandpappy did, getting rich, chasing economic growth and progress. So when Greece goes down the gurgly hole because they can't afford to pay the interest on the money, then there's also places like Ireland and Italy and Spain and Portugal and Iceland, and they're not in actually any better situation in the long term kind of thing. So it's entirely likely that the European Union will fall over. And strangely that it wasn't mentioned anywhere in this week's broadcast, there was a big shit fight on the stock market in China on Friday to the tune of $3.7 trillion wiped off the market in Beijing. So there'll be a lot less rich Chinese interested in coming out and buying property in Sydney, one would think, because they've just lost a lot of their paper money, paper wealth. So Tony Abbott wasn't talking about Greece or China, he was talking about gay marriage. And the other really big topic of conversation in Australia this week, there was a big blow to the people who think that playing organised team sport is the focus and central reason for being alive. Because there was a bloke I'd never heard of who made a living by coaching people to run around and play feetball. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the process, there's a few different codes of feetball. Some of them have, I think, 13 people, and some of them have 15 people in their teams. And there's a feetball league and a feetball union, and there's also the Australian Feetball League. They play 3 different variations on a game which involves a leader and a deputy leader and a bunch of lead, defending a territorial enclave against a ritual attack by the males of a neighbouring tribe, while attacking the territorial enclave of the neighbouring tribe. They have an ellipsoidal pigskin bladder, pumped full of compressed air, and they kick it and they throw it and they run it around and they chase after it, and it has the role of a symbolic sperm packet. And at either ends of the field in the territorial enclaves, there's pairs of symbolic legs sticking up there, and you get points for kicking the sperm packet or running up and putting the sperm packet by hand behind the line of the legs, ideally between the legs. So anyway, this bloke spent his whole life worrying about feetball. He was a coach on a feetball team, and apparently, by the miracle of stored video, they've got a clip of him discussing how he spent way too much time worrying about football and not enough time thinking about his family, and he became distanced and separated and unplugged from his son. But now he was all much more better because, you know, the club had said he had to take more time talking to his family because he'd had 10 weeks, you know, flat out playing, worrying about the game. Well, something went wrong there on Thursday night, because his son's 26 years old and he's charged with murder, and daddy's dead from multiple stab wounds, and mummy had some wounds in the leg. And when I heard it, I thought, well, geez, why would you want to raise your kid to be so pissed off with you that he wants to stab you to death because he's cranky? And I wondered if there was ice involved, and since then the police have been photographed, you know, as they do, holding up the ice bag in the ice pipe in the plastic bag as they've taken it away from the crime scene. And it puts me in mind of a bloke I heard of locally whose young son decided that he was so pissed off with his father he hit him around the head with a baseball bat, you know. And I've heard that since then the fella had a trip to the courthouse and he's on a good behaviour bond, and daddy's still trying to start his car with his cigarette lighter because his brain has had just a little bit too much bouncing around on the inside of his skull, and it ain't quite working right yet. And once again, why would you want to raise your kid to dislike you so much that when they get a bit pissed off, they smack you around the head with a baseball bat? And there again, the kid's supposed to have been using this crystal methamphetamine stuff. So I guess we have to rephrase the question. Why would you raise your kid to want to use crystal methamphetamine? Because it apparently makes you feel really, really, really good, which means that those kids must be feeling really, really, really bad. Otherwise, they wouldn't want crystal methamphetamine to make them feel normal. I guess there might be more important things to worry about than feetball and drinking and chasing new girlfriend fantasies. Because that's pretty much the conclusion that I'm drawing from the data that I see cast before me on these 2 particular cases. One where the young fella killed his old man with a knife. The other one where young fella got the shits and smacked daddy around the head with a baseball bat. Oh, gee, I'm really glad that I crashed my aeroplane and broke my foot. And from when they were 15 months old and 3 years old, my kids were faster than me. So they only ever came to me for a belting when they thought they wanted one. I had to learn to get along with them and have them respect me as a parent instead. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.